Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Peter SSL, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 ways through which you can come to Canada. Are you ready? If you're really interested in coming to Canada, you have to watch this video to the very end, because this is probably going to be the best video you're going to see on the internet to really explore your option, and then you can pick one of the options and explore that based on the qualifications you have, based on the experiences you have, the amount of finances that are involved. Are you ready? Okay, let's get started. Now, the very first way you can come to Canada is through schooling, right? And for school, which means that you have to get a study permit in order to be able to come to Canada, and also a visa to come to Canada. But to do that, there are different options through which you can school. For example, if you already have a high school in your country, you can decide to do a bachelor's program, you can decide to do a diploma program, you can decide to do an advanced diploma program, and if you already have a degree from your country, you can decide to do a master's degree. You can even apply for another diploma, a post graduate diploma or an advanced diploma. And then if you already have a master's, you can apply for PhD. So in some of my other videos, I've really talked about how to, if you're planning to come through the master's route, I've talked about that. If you're planning to come to the PhD, I've really talked about that in the video. So do well to check the link in the description in terms of how to come through master's and a PhD. So what you need to understand is really what is involved in terms of schooling, right? So the very first thing is really getting that admission, right? So if you are planning to come for masters, or you first need to look for a school and then apply for that school. So when you get admission in that school, then before you'll be able to apply for the visa or the study permit. So you need to search a particular province and then apply for their program. When you then get an admission letter from that school, then you go and apply for visa. So a couple of things you need to take notice of. Number one, the tuition, right? There are schools that will require, especially for diploma programs and maybe some masters, they might require to pay an upfront, maybe 1 semester tuition. Some are required to pay a tuition deposit, and then there are some, especially for masters and PhD, they might not require you to pay anything. So you really look through the website and see after you've gotten admission, what is the next step that the school require. That way you are really equipped, in terms of knowing exactly what to do and how to get ready. So what are the advantages of coming through school? The advantage number one, if you come through school, you'll be able to work, right? With Canada, if you have a study permit, you'll be able to work 20 hours a week. It can be jobs, on campus, it can be off campus, right? So it's really good. You don't advisable not to go beyond that 20 hours a week, because if it's too much and the government gets aware of it, by the time you're about to extend your study permit, it becomes a problem, right? So just try to stay within that 20 hours per week. So the good thing about it is you can come through school and maybe you have finance to pay for 1 or 2 semesters, right? Then as you're schooling, you're also saving for tuition, so that you can you save as much as you can to pay for tuition for the next semester. It's really tough and challenging, because you're going to be paying for your rent, your feeding, your accommodation, and all other bills, right? And then you still have to save for that. So you really have to do your calculations right to know exactly how much you need to save in order to get your tuition, right? And if you're on scholarship, especially for masters and PhD, good for you, right? So you can be, especially for the research programs, right? You can be going to school and the department is paying you, right? They are sorting out your stipend, they're giving you stipends, and that stipend, you can use that they've already deducted tuition from that, and then whatever is left, you can just use that to pay for your accommodation, your feeding, and you can even save from that. So what this means is that if you do like a 1-year program, after that you can now do a you can apply for work permit after your graduation. Then you can then work for about a year in a certain class of job, and then you can then apply for your permanent residency. So that's the advantage of schooling, right? You have to get your, apply for your PR before your post-graduation work permit expires, because they don't really like extending that, currently. So you have to really be on top of your game, right? So that is number one, schooling. The second way through which you can come to Canada, are you ready, is through visitors visa. So this can range from, either a conference, let's say, there is an AIDS conference or HIV, if you are a non-profit organization, you can look for conferences that are related to your area. You apply for those conferences, and then you can then apply for a visitors visa with that particular conference. Or if you have a relation in Canada, you can also tell them to send you an invitation to come over and visit them, right? So they don't just like, a distant friend, just say a friend is coming to visit me when you're not doing anything, right? They don't really, they don't like that, so you really have to be relations, right? So don't say, oh, my old secondary school friend is in Canada, so they can just send me an invitation like that, right? Because you have to show what they call proof of relationships. Proof of relationship. Now, there are caveats to this visitors visa, and there are advantages and disadvantages. So one of the advantages is that, of course, you can come to Canada, and then, enjoy as much as you can, go for tourism and all that. But the disadvantage is that with the visitors visa, you cannot work. So even though you come, you cannot just work, because for you to work, you will need a social insurance number, and they don't give social insurance number to visitors, right? Because they assume you are just coming here to visit, so they are not going to employ you, right? And then the other part of this is that you cannot stay more than 6 months for visiting, right? So they give you, even though your visa is, they give you 5 years visiting, you can only stay for a period of 6 months, right? And then after that, maybe you come for your conference is 2 weeks, some people stay 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then go back. So that is the disadvantage of that visiting. When you're done with whatever you've come to do, you have to go back. During COVID, there is kind of something that they did. If you come, maybe you are on visitors visa and you are able to, probably you apply for a job, and then you've seen an employer that is willing to accept, to employ you, you can then use that to apply for employer specific work permit, right? So it's a very temporary program that is currently available. So I don't know how long that is going to take, but it's not really, if you're planning on that, you really have to be strategic, because they can change it at any time. And in fact, before now, if you come with visiting, before you can even apply for a job, even though if you apply for a job and you get the job, you have to leave the country, apply for work permit before you come back, right? So it was just recently that you're able to apply, and then stay till that is processed, right? And it takes a couple of months for you to get your work permit. So another disadvantage is that during those processes where you can't work, you have to be able to sustain yourself financially, sort out your bills, because you can't work. So you have to have a plan B in terms of how to sort out all your expenses. That is number 2. The third way you can come to Canada, are you ready for this, is through work permit. Now, there are different kinds of work permits. There is the closed work permit, which is also like an employer-specific work permit. Then there is the open work permit, which basically you can work for anybody. So there are the advantages and disadvantages of this as well. The advantage is that when you apply for work permit, you can work full-time without any restriction. You can work full-time, okay? But the disadvantage, or let me just use the disadvantage, the challenge is really getting that job offer. So you have to reach out to Canadian companies and see if they are recruiting people with your experience, and then you apply to them. When they say, oh, we're going to hire you, right, then they will give you a lot of the jobs, the employer will have to show what is called a labor market impact assessment, which basically shows that the employer, they were not able to get somebody in Canada, especially a citizen or a permanent resident, to fill in that position. That is how they are deciding to hire an international person, right? So they have to kind of pay for that, and then they give to you. Then you can then use that document, that assessment, to add to your other documents to apply for work permits. That is for closed work permit. There is also what they call open work permit. This one is basically you can work for any employer, but this is kind of restricted. And the most common type of this, is the spousal open work permit. If let's say your spouse is in Canada, they are your spouse is a student in Canada, they can invite you to come with spouse open work permit. The good thing about this one is that you don't need any job offer. You just apply for the work permit. In fact, your husband's study permit is your job offer, but they don't call it job offer, right? But you just have to show that your spouse, your husband or your wife is currently a student in any of the Canadian university, or is a worker, right? Then they can apply for open work permit for you. So that is pretty good, but it's restricted for certain people. So you can't just wake up and say I want to apply for open work permit in Canada, right? So it's very restricted for a certain type of people. That is the the third way to immigrate to Canada. The fourth way to immigrate to Canada is through permanent residency. Okay, so I'm really talking about this, especially those that are outside of Canada and are planning to come in, right? So permanent residency, there are different options available for permanent residency. There is the one they call the economic class. Under that, you have the federal skilled worker program, you have the federal skills trade program, and the provincial, then there's also the provincial nominee part of it. So because of COVID, the federal skilled worker program, they haven't really done a draw for that. So basically for that, you need to have 1 year of work experience in your country in a certain kind of job, right? Most of the jobs we have to be jobs that require at least a BSc, to get those jobs. There are different classifications. So what you can do, if you go to the Canadian immigration website, just type your job title and see the class or the category, that certain job fits in. If you have at least 1 year, you can go write your English test, maybe do your WES, World Education Service evaluation of your credentials, and then stay in the pool. When they do a draw and there's what they call the comprehensive ranking score. That comprehensive ranking score is when they put all of your points together, then they'll give you a point based on maybe you have a BSc, you have so number of years of work experience. They will give you a point for each of those things and also your age. If they do a draw and your point is above that cutoff mark, they will give you invitation to apply. You can then apply for permanent residency, and then once it is approved, then you can then come to Canada as a permanent resident. Then the other one is like the skills trade. They haven't really done a draw for that for some time now. That is if you have a special skill like maybe welding, plumbing, bricklaying, electrician, and you have certifications, you can apply for that skilled program as well. The other option is also provincial nominee. So you can either do if you are outside of Canada, you can do provincial nominee. So how do you do it? You submit an express entry profile. Some of these things, if you go to the Canadian immigration, just type express entry Canada, you see lots of information. So if you put in an express entry profile, then you can then indicate, okay, I want to settle down in Alberta, right? So what will happen is that when the Alberta government, they go to that express entry profile, let's say you're a nurse or you're an engineer, and then they are looking for certain people with certain skills. They go through the pool and look at people that have indicated interest to immigrate to Canada. Maybe they look at the pool and say, there are a couple of people that are nursing and we are looking for a nurse in Canada. Alberta government will now give you provincial nomination. That provincial nomination gives you an extra 600 points. With that 600 points, you can then, in fact, it's going to increase your cutoff, and then and then increase your point, and then the government will now give you invitation to apply. You apply, submit all your necessary documents. Of course, you must have done your English test and everything, and then they will now you cannot come through PRO. So that is the fourth way through which you can come to Canada. The fifth way you can come to Canada is as a business person, right? If you kind of have that, they call it maybe startup visa or something, so, or entrepreneurship, right? If you want to start up a company in Canada, but there are lots of requirements for that, not just like a small scale job that is, a company that is worth $1,000. There are a couple of hundreds of thousands of dollars that are involved in that, so you need to show that you really want to start a business and you have these funds, you have a proposal and all of those. There are requirements. Once you go to startup visa, you see the requirements that are available. So these are the 5 ways through which you can immigrate to Canada. So really look at your options, see what works for you, right? So if you're really still confused after this video and you don't really know what, you don't kind of understand, you have specific questions, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you, to guide you through the process. I will sit down one-on-one with you, and then probably on call, especially because in Canada, we can't meet, right? So we can do maybe online, and then we have that conversation. I'll look through all the documents you have, your experience, and then I will suggest which of the option will be best for you. I do this, and I love doing it because I desire to help you to come to Canada. So as a summary, the 5 ways to come to Canada: schooling, number 1; number 2, as a visitor; number 3, through work permit; number 4, through permanent residency; number 5, through business or as a startup visa. So if you like this video, do well to hit the subscribe button and also share with your friends. If you have specific questions regarding how to immigrate to Canada, just leave the question in the comment section and I will try as much as possible to address your question. Thank you once again for watching. Have a wonderful day. See you.